welcome to the news on NTA International. I am Charles Alpha. We are live in Abuja and on the social media platforms displayed on your screen. But first, let's take a look at some of our top stories. ECOWAS extraordinary session ends, calls for release of President Bazoum, lifts economic sanction on Niger. The federal government is set to release 42,000 metric tons of assorted food items to vulnerable Nigerians. And some Western leaders in Kyiv to show solidarity with Ukraine as it marks second anniversary on Russia invasion. We begin with the news of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, lifting economic sanctions on Niger Republic with immediate effect. A communique of the extraordinary summit read by the President, Omar Aliou Toure, also advised authorities in Niger Republic to release the former President Mohamed Bazoum and set a date for transition of power.
ECOWAS countries and Niger to be lifted. No-fly zone of all commercial flights to and from Niger is to be lifted. Suspension of all commercial and financial transactions between ECOWAS member states and Niger is to be lifted. Freezing of all service transactions, including utility services, is to be lifted. Freezing of assets of the Republic of Niger in ECOWAS central banks is to be lifted. Freezing of assets of Niger state and the state enterprises and parastatals in commercial banks is to be lifted.
The ECOWAS also lifted sanctions on Mali and made pronouncements on political issues in Senegal and Guinea.
The authority has also resolved to lift the sanctions regarding the recruitment of Malian citizens in statutory and professional positions within ECOWAS. The authority has also resolved to lift financial and economic sanctions on the Republic of Guinea. The authority has also instructed the President of the Commission to invite Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, and Guinea to attend technical and consultative meetings of ECOWAS, as well as all security-related meetings. The authority calls on ECOWAS institutions, member states, YMO, and other regional institutions to implement this decision.
Now, the chairman of the Economic Community of West African States, who hosted the extraordinary session, had tasked leaders of the regional bloc to promote peace and cooperation among themselves for socio-economic growth. President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria tasks members of the community to deliberate on issues that will foster unity and development in the region. He urges members to carefully look at the situation in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, who in late January announced their withdrawal over sanctions harming their people.
We must approach these issues with a sense of unity and commitment to the well-being of our people. We face in our sub-region demand that we take difficult but courageous decisions that put the plight of our people at the center of our deliberation. This is why we must re-examine our current approach to the quest for constitutional order in 4 of our member states.
Now, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, is leading a presidential delegation to the state funeral of the departed President of Namibia, Dr. Hage Geingob, who transited to eternity on February 4, 2024 at the age of 83. The trip is at the instance of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who had appointed Senator Akpabio as his special envoy and leader of the Nigerian delegation to the occasion, holding in Windhoek, the capital of Namibia. The trip is to demonstrate Nigeria's solidarity with the government and people of Namibia, as well as convey President Tinubu's deep condolences and the renewed assurances of his regard to the good people of Namibia. Now, to South Africa's ruling ANC has kick-started its election campaign Saturday for polls on May 29, 2024. This is as the country is facing its worst results ever amid high unemployment and sluggish economic challenges from its former leader. Victoria Bassi has the report.
Being in power since the advent of democracy in 1994, President Cyril Ramaphosa's African National Congress has suffered a sharp decline in support, beset by allegations of corruption and mismanagement. Yet, the party remains a formidable machine, with supporters at all levels of government across most of the country, and many South Africans retain proud memories of his lead role in the anti-apartheid struggle. Ramaphosa has acknowledged that some party's members have been found wanting in recent scandals and vowed that candidates for elected posts would be rigorously screened. Tens of thousands of people dressed in the ANC's yellow and green colors packed into a soccer stadium in the port city of Durban. The ANC faces an uphill battle to keep its parliamentary majority, with polls showing it is particularly vulnerable in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal, a key electoral battleground. The province is home to former President Jacob Zuma, who is resentful about the way he was forced out of office and has joined an opposition group seeking to cut into the ANC share. Victoria Bassi, NTA.
From South Africa, now take you to Tunisia, where Albania's parliament has approved a deal for the country to hold thousands of asylum seekers for Italy in a vote on Thursday, despite protests from opposition lawmakers and human rights groups. Francis Udojo reports that for some of the people currently sheltering at a camp in Tunis, Albania is not the destination for choice for them.
While some of the migrants in Tunis are not interested in moving to Albania, others say they were open to going to Albania, especially those fleeing war or repression in their countries of origin. Ahmed, a Sudanese refugee, said, "We need safety and security because we don't know what will happen to us in Albania. If Europe's decision will help us, we support it and hope they will help us because we are fleeing from war," he said.
Are coming from the places where the war and other conflicts existed. So this is, I think, very bad as refugee seekers and asylum seekers about relocating again to Albania.
Under the 5-year deal, Albania will shelter up to 3,000 migrants rescued from international waters at any one time. With asylum requests expected to take around a month to process, the number of asylum seekers sent to Albania could reach up to 36,000 in a year. Albania is not an European Union member, and the idea of sending asylum seekers outside the bloc is controversial. The deal was endorsed by the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen as an example of out-of-the-box thinking, but has been widely criticized by rights groups. The agreement, signed in November between Albania's Prime Minister Edin Rama and Italian Premier Giorgia Meloni, is part of Meloni's efforts to share the burden of addressing migration with other European countries. Francis Udojo, NTA News.
Bank Group and the Lake Chad Basin Commission have signed a memorandum of understanding to rehabilitate and restore the Lake Chad Basin. The agreement signed on the sideline of the 37th African Union Summit held in Ethiopia will mobilize financial and technical resources to improve the development and management of water resources, support livelihoods, and restore peace in the region. Lake Chad, once considered the sixth largest inland water body on Earth for livelihood, has shrunk in area by some 92% in recent decades. The larger Chad Basin contributes to food security for about 50 million people. Republic of Chad Minister of Water Passalet Kanade Marcela said the population living in this ecosystem is facing major socio-economic challenges. Add to that the insecurity situation due to terrorist groups, which brings loss of livelihood, destruction of households, forced internal displacements, and beyond our national frontiers. African Development Bank Vice President for Regional Development, Integration and Business Delivery, Mary-Laurie Akin-Luwade, told dignitaries and sector leaders in water and agriculture at the signing ceremony that the agreement provides a framework for projects and programs to improve the quality of life for millions of Africans. And in Ukraine, 4 Western leaders are currently in Kyiv to show solidarity with Ukraine as it marks its second anniversary since Russia launched full-scale invasion of the country. Francis Doja reports.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen vowed that Europe would back Ukraine until it is finally free, as she and 3 other Western leaders arrived Kyiv to show solidarity on the second anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion. The visit by von der Leyen and Prime Ministers of Italy, Canada and Belgium, Giorgia Meloni, Justin Trudeau and Alexander De Croo, was a show of support as Ukraine suffers shortages of military supplies that are hurting in on the battlefield as Moscow makes territorial gains. Von der Leyen, who came with the others on an overnight train from neighboring Poland, says, "More than ever, we stand firmly by Ukraine, financially, economically, militarily, morally, until the country is finally free."
We're here to tell you that Europe will continue to stand at your side for as long as it takes, with more financial support, more ammunition, more training for your troops, more air defenses, and more investment in Europe's and Ukraine's defense industries.
The leaders visited Hostomel Airport, site of an intense battle at the start of the invasion, as Russia tried to fly in paratroopers to seize the capital Kyiv a few kilometers away. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky embraced the Western leaders and delivered a televised speech against the backdrop of wrecked aircraft. He said, 2 years ago, we met enemy troopers here with fire, and 2 years later, we are meeting our friends, our partners here. Any normal person wants the war to end, but none of us will allow our Ukraine to end. He added that the word independent will always stand next to the word Ukraine in future history. The regional governor said, despite calls from the United Nations to end the war, Russian drones attacked the port of Odessa for a second night running, hitting a residential building, killing 1 person. Meanwhile, a source in Kyiv said Ukrainian drones had caused a blaze at a Russian steel plant, which a Russian official identified as one in Lepstik, some 400 kilometers from Ukraine, that is responsible for about 18% of Russian output. However, Meloni and Trudeau are expected to sign security pacts with Zelensky during their brief stay, in line with deals recently agreed with France and Germany worth billions of dollars. Francis Udojo, NTA News.
The North Atlantic Treaty Organization NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg has urged Ukraine and its allies not to lose heart as Russia President Vladimir Putin presses his offensive 2 years into the war. Usman Zubairu has more.
NATO Chief Stoltenberg says the situation on the battlefield remains extremely serious as President Putin's aim to dominate Ukraine has not changed, and there are no indication that he is preparing for peace. He sent a record message to mark the second anniversary the Russian invasion on Ukraine. He however reiterated that we must not lose heart. Ukraine has demonstrated remarkable skills and fierce determination again and again. The second anniversary of the invasion comes as Ukraine's outgunned troops are struggling to hold the front line and doubts filled over future support from the United States. Stoltenberg pointed to recent promise of military aid from NATO states worth billions of dollars.
For that day, NATO will continue to stand with Ukraine for your security and for ours.
He noted that more support is on the way and will cover key capabilities like artillery, ammunition, air defense, and combat boats, as well as F-16 equipment and spare parts, drones, and determined equipment. Usman Zubairu, NTA News.
Still watching the news on NTA International, we will take a quick break now. More reports ahead. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Zambia has seen a surge in cholera cases since January 2024, with fatalities reaching 700. Francis Sudoja reports that medical charity doctors say the country has recorded nearly 20,000 infections since the outbreak started in October 2023.
The beginning of the outbreak cases were restricted to Lusaka and Ndola, the two largest cities in Zambia. The disease has since spread to all provinces of the country, with the potential to affect the entire southern African region. Infections have already been reported in neighboring Zimbabwe, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Malawi. Reports say critics have accused President Hakainde Hichilema's government of a lack of a strong response strategy to counter the disease. Owing to the high number of infections, a large soccer stadium in the capital city has been converted into a treatment facility. In January, the Ministry of Health began a vaccination campaign targeting 1.5 million people in areas deemed to be a high risk of transmission. The disease, which is transmitted through the ingestion of contaminated food or water, has the largest number of recorded cases in the capital city of Lusaka. Francis Udojo, NTA News.
On food security, the process of release of the 42,000 metric tons of assorted food items as directed by the President is underway. Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, says the grains are being bagged before handing over to the National Emergency Management Agency for distribution to vulnerable Nigerians. Musa Babali reports.
The government has stored 51,000 metric tons of assorted food in silos across the country. Out of the number, the president directed that 42,000 metric tons be released to cushion the effects of inflation, with the poor and the needy as major targets. Apart from cassava flakes, also known as gari, which is already bagged, grains are being packaged in sacks for easy distribution. And here, officials of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security are carrying out the exercise.
You can see the number of bags that are well stacked, 9 trucks on ground already. As at this hour, today being 23rd of February 2024.
Rice is also on the food items to be distributed, and the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, says 60,000 metric tons will be purchased by the federal government from mega rice millers. And the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security says government intervention is already having positive impacts, with the price of produce gradually dropping across the country. In the area of crop production, he says government is strengthening food production by boosting dry season farming under the National Agricultural Growth Scheme, Agro Pockets. The first phase focuses on the cultivation of wheat across 15 wheat-producing states, covering 118,657 hectares and involving 107,429 farmers. Phase 2 of the dry season farming will commence soon across the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. It will cover rice, maize and cassava.
The farmer to pay half a bag of fertilizer and he gets 3 bags. That is to say, NAGS is paying 1.5 bags, and also the farmer pays half bag, and the Federal Ministry of Agriculture through the intervention is paying 1 bag. And all these items that I'm talking about also includes the agrochemicals, and seeds is free. All seeds, be it wheat, maize or rice or cassava, are all free.
Additionally, solar-powered water pumps for irrigation provided by the federal government are being deployed to aid the upcoming phase of the program. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
And Musa Baba Aliyu is reporting that the federal government says its security agencies are out to fight those moving food out of the country illegally, as well as holders of produce in the hinterland. He also said that the government plans to introduce marketing boards to regulate the bulk purchase of food for export. Nigeria
has over the years remained food secured, with over 60 million farmers producing what the country consumes daily. A survey indicates that about 12 countries relied on Nigeria for their staples on a daily basis. A market like this at the border communities are major sources of the food. It has also been reported that merchants are taking advantage of the devaluation of the naira to buy food in bulk and export it for maximum gains.
Food in Nigeria is the cheapest in West Africa, and our neighbors are using our food to trade. They're taking our soybeans and other stuff back to make foreign exchange for themselves.
A visit to the Nigeria-Niger border in Zambia, Katsina states shows a stall in the movement of goods and services following the sanctions imposed on Niger. However, behind the border post, smugglers find their way, but many of them have been arrested.
Just in that Ilela axis, there are 32 illegal smuggling routes. And the moment those foodstuffs were intercepted, the price of maize fell by 10,000 naira.
In the hinterland, there are bulk buying and hoarding of agricultural produce and products. To address these challenges, the government is planning to introduce national commodity boards to monitor the movement of agricultural produce within the country and those for export.
This is a board, this is an arrangement where they will take charge of what is needed for the country in terms of securing supply of food for our teeming population.
Going by the ranking of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, Nigeria remains the world's largest producer of sorghum, cowpea, cassava, yam and vegetables. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Still on food sufficiency, smart agriculture is one of the ways to tackle the current high cost of commodities globally. This was the position of specialized farmers in Abuja. Smart farming, which is in collaboration with the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, comprises onions, tomatoes, and other produce, and is aimed at youth empowerment and poverty alleviation.
That we want youth to be independent. Some of them need good education. They don't even have school fees. But with AJ Farm, we believe supporting them will also make them to go have their good education and achieve the goals that they've ever desired.
It will help them because at least it can help them to start up something that will impact on them. They can use it to follow their passion.
Participants were urged to embrace smart agriculture to guarantee food security in the nation.
If we invest into agriculture, it will go to reduce the food costs, and at the end of the day, they're going to be food everywhere. So everybody should invest in agriculture.
Think outside the box. by introducing this system of smart agriculture. We have onions. We also have other agricultural products.
Smart farming system is in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. Now, the federal government, in a bid to fast-track its Housing Renewed Hope agenda, has re-engaged the Shelter Africa Bank. Francis Udoja reports that the process was initiated in Abuja by the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Musa Dangiwa.
The meeting is initiated at the instance of the Minister of Housing for the Federal Housing Authority and the team of Shelter Africa Bank. Shelter Africa is a pan-African finance institution which exclusively supports the development of the housing and real estate sector in Africa. Reason, the minister, represented by the Director, Urban and Regional Development, Dr. Olakunde David, initiated the engagement.
Sometimes too much of talking. My own is let's see the action. We give you the land, we give you everything, you make the funds available. Operation. Now that's 6 more years, let's get the house going. Let people stay inside the house. But you know, sometimes bureaucracy, I'm telling you, the issue of bureaucracy with FHA is now something of the past.
It is also aimed at leveraging on its capacity in the delivery of affordable shelter to Nigerians.
We are really here to re-engage and make sure that we can work with the government to push the agenda for affordable housing. We met with the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We met the Minister of Finance. We met with the Central Bank Governor. And we actually heading to meet the Minister of Foreign Affairs as well to move forward.
The Shelter Africa team met with the leadership of the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria for similar reasons. In Abuja, Francis Udojo, NTA News.
Next is our weather report. And that ends the news on NTA International. Thanks for watching. I am Charles Alpha.